So I agree with all of that. When I say the system isn't broken enough, I'm talking about like our political system, like in the way that like we still enact like our laws and the way that we vote and stuff like that.
I know what you're saying. You're saying that not enough people are negatively impacted by certain policies to the point where they will want to do something about it. That complacency,
I think
and
not enough,
and being far removed.
I think not enough privileged people are going through that.
Yeah, but like you have to be specific about that, because I know what you mean. You mean that like middle class people aren't getting affected by certain things. Because some of them, obviously the 1% is not getting affected by those things. But there has to be a majority threshold that's not being affected, and the majority threshold by definition means that the privilege that you're talking about isn't being internalized by the listener, of course, as the majority. Yeah. If you say the word privilege, people may associate that word with very specific groups of people, i.e., maybe just the 1%, and then we're going to say, okay, we need to figure out the 1%. No, but what you mean is regular people. In a lot of ways, regular people aren't getting affected enough by some of these policies, so enough for them to want to do something. So
when I say the privileged community, and like I talk to my man about this a lot, is the privileged community involves anybody who is, because it's all accident. You don't gain privilege outside of the fact that you were just lucky enough to be born into it.
Right, of course.
Because you were either lucky enough to be born a man, you were lucky enough to be born a white man, you were lucky enough to be born into those societies, and that when I say privilege is like, unless the top of the gun here in the United States, which would be a stereotypical white man, which is essentially at the top of the hierarchy that we've established in terms of privilege here in the United States. Unless that person actually thinks that they have rights to lose, I don't actually believe that there will be a crumbling of our system, like complete disintegration of it.
There's a running joke that the Black Panthers, I think, used to make, where they say, if you want gun legislation, you have to give all black and brown people guns.
Yeah.
And then immediately, I promise you, there'll be gun legislation by Monday.
Exactly.
Right? Because the white power structure that you're talking about would feel threatened.
Yes.
And they would make something happen.
And I think a lot of people don't internalize that because a lot of people, obviously, when they think privilege, they think, but I was also poor, but I also struggled. But I also had this. It's like, well, the privilege doesn't talk about whether or not you struggled in life. Everybody struggles in life. The billionaire right now is probably struggling in life. We're not. It's not about the struggle Olympics. It's about the fact that because of what you happen to be born into or happen to be growing up around, that you have entitlements to certain things that people don't actually have entitlements for right now, that also we're born here, that we're also raised here and whatnot. So to me, I feel like it's going to take that. And I mean, not going to lie, I do think that we are running pretty close to it to a certain extent here. But right now, they're really, really, really pushing on the racist agenda. So they are going out of their way to create an environment because they think that it'll be possible to basically fail-safe a situation where white people will never get affected by, like, your stereotypical Christian white person is never actually going to get affected by any of the legislation that they're putting, because they're trying to rig it into a way that will never happen. At least that's the false sense of security that they're trying to paint to the white people, right? Now, and a lot of them are buying it. A lot of them are like, yeah, you're right. I am the victim here. You're right. It's all the criminals and the illegals and this and that. That's why I don't have a job. No, Susan, you don't have a job because you don't want to get up your ass. Okay, like that's just how that works. Some corporatists or some corporatists is actually exactly. That's what they're doing. Like, they're gonna give it to whoever's gonna give them the lowest price. Who's gonna lowball them the most? The people who have nothing. Right. And it's funny because the same people that will complain about them losing their job are the same people that, and I mean, statistically speaking, are the same people that have praised Trump for making good business practices, and the good business practices that he says he does, i.e. whenever he doesn't pay workers in New York that are construction workers that he hired, which is a actual, you could find out the details of that lawsuit online, is because of that, he says, I found cheaper labor. So I'd rather pay the cheaper labor. So the same people that will complain that they lost their job to cheaper labor will praise a businessman for finding cheaper labor. And that's the whole irony of it all. That's why the Republican
grift is so powerful